Bien Junwoo could never have imagined that Heavenly Sea City was hiding such a vast horde of corpses. Just as the investigation team was about to leave Heavenly Sea City, Jang Yi shared his findings with Bien Junwoo. Bien Junwoo shouted in disbelief, "What did you say? Stop the car right now." Bailey Chongqing immediately slammed on the brakes. Jang Yi continued, "This is absolutely true. The horde is located in the deepest part of the subway in Turtle Mountain area, and the number could very well be in the millions." Bien Junwoo asked gravely, "How did you discover this?" Jang Yi hesitated for a moment, originally planning to lie about accidentally discovering it, but facing a shrewd person like Bien Junwoo, he dared not play any tricks. After thinking it over, Jang Yi honestly replied, "During the last zombie battle, I always felt it ended too abruptly. Therefore, I have been suspecting that the zombies were not completely eradicated. So these days, I have been actively inspecting various subways, and finally, I discovered their existence." Jang Yi also knew that only by informing them that the zombie crisis was unresolved could their investigation team's mission be considered incomplete, giving him no choice but to return to River South Domain to report. This way, he could leverage the power of River South Domain and the help of Bien Junwoo and others to find an opportunity to eliminate the threat posed by Yuan Kongye. Bien Junwoo asked in a deep voice, "Where are you now?" "We'll come to find you," Jang Yi replied. "Then come to my shelter." After hanging up the phone, Bien Junwoo immediately instructed Bailey to turn around and head to Jang Yi's shelter. Wu Di, puzzled, asked, "Why go after that coward again? He's too scared to fight me." Bien Junwoo adjusted his toed glasses and said indifferently, "We can't leave yet." Jang Yi said he's discovered a large number of corpses again. As he spoke, Bien Junwoo suddenly started coughing violently, the sound as if he was about to cough out his lungs. Meng Siyu immediately took out the medical kit and handed 2 pills to Bien Junwoo. Bien Junwoo coughed for a long time, and when he looked at his palm, it was covered in bright red blood. Seeing this, everyone's expressions became extremely grave. Bien Junwoo swallowed the pills and then wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "You don't need to look at me with such expressions. Having this ability, I don't regret it. After all, it's because of it that I've been able to resolve crises again and again. Everything has 2 sides. Paying a little price is acceptable. Everything gifted by the heavens has its price marked secretly, especially in this apocalyptic world. You must get used to these kinds of things and not let other emotions affect your rationality. This is very important." Soon, they arrived at Jang Yi's shelter. After hanging up the phone, Jang Yi also quickly returned home to wait. He had already prepared his story. This time, no matter what, he intended to drag River South Domain into this affair to prevent them from extricating themselves. Just arriving at the shelter, Wu Di said disdainfully, "Jang Yi, don't play us. If you make us come here for nothing, I won't let you off." Jang Yi ignored Wu Di. Looking at Bien Junwoo, he said, "Come with me. I'll show you something." Jang Yi pulled up footage captured by a mechanical rat, showing the deepest part of the subway filled with countless sleeping zombies. This scene sent chills down everyone's spine, the number far exceeding all the hordes they had encountered before combined. However, they were not afraid of the zombies themselves. Rather, the existence of these zombies meant that all their previous efforts had been in vain. After watching the clip sent by the mechanical rat, Jang Yi feigned shock and said gravely, "I was also startled when I first saw the video. There are just too many of them. Without your help, the remaining forces in Heavenly Sea City surely wouldn't stand a chance against them. So I can only shamelessly ask you all for help once more." Bien Junwoo frowned and asked, "Does anyone else know about this?" Jang Yi could only answer truthfully, "Currently, only you guys know. No one else should be aware yet." Bien Junwoo stared deeply at Jang Yi. "Are you suspecting that there are humans behind this?" Jang Yi did not want to share his suspicions. He simply pretended to be ignorant and shook his head, saying, "I can't really say, but the matter is too significant, and I dare not make wild guesses, so I can only ask you all to teach me what to do." Sighing and holding his forehead, Jang Yi said, "If even you can't handle it, I might really have to leave this ominous place." "Did you say Blizzard City offers room and board?" Bien Junwoo ignored Jang Yi's humor, continuing to ask, "Do you have any other findings?" Jang Yi spread his hands helplessly. "How would I know so much? I'm not some professional investigator. Finding this horde was largely due to luck." Bien Junwoo fell silent for a moment, then said, "We will investigate this matter to the end, but when the time comes, you all must help." Jang Yi's expression was somewhat hesitant. "That's easy for me to say, but the other forces lost almost 80% of their strength in the last great battle. I doubt I'll be much help." Bien Junwoo said sternly, "This is your homeland. Even if it comes down to the last soldier, you must contribute." Jang Yi sighed, "We'll do our best." Bien Junwoo and his group turned to leave, and although Jang Yi politely offered to have them stay for dinner, Bien Junwoo flatly refused. Watching the investigation team leave, Jang Yi couldn't help but sigh, his gaze carrying a hint of guilt. In fact, Jang Yi had indeed concealed some truths. The footage he showed to Bien Junwoo was just a small part, and the real number of zombies was far greater. After all, Jang Yi was worried that once they knew the real scale of the zombies, they would back out or even give up on Heavenly Sea City, allowing River South Domain to use the Love Mushroom Cloud. After getting back into the car, the atmosphere among the investigation team was somewhat oppressive. They had just resolved one wave of zombies, but the troubles were only growing. Bien Junwoo faced 2 choices. The first was to ask for help from River South Domain. The second was to rely rely on their own strength and the local forces for another decapitation strike. Undoubtedly, the first option was the safest, but it also meant admitting to their own inadequacy, and his future standing in the eyes of the higher-ups would plummet. Thinking this, Bien Junwoo made a decision. Let's first find out the situation, try to solve it ourselves, and not trouble headquarters. At that moment, Bailey Chongqing suggested, why don't we gather a few major forces and first investigate the Turtle Mountain area to understand the situation. Bien Junwoo refused without hesitation. We absolutely cannot let anyone else get involved now. I'm seriously suspecting this isn't a natural disaster, but rather a man-made one. If that's the case, anyone from these major forces could potentially be the mastermind behind this. Wu Di frowned and shouted, is the boss saying someone is breeding zombies? I think Zhang Yi is the most suspicious. In this great battle, all the major forces suffered heavy losses, only Zhang Yi's were minimal. Bailey Chongqing analyzed, I don't think it's him. Zhang Yi isn't lacking resources, nor does he have a reason to do this. Moreover, he was the one who provided us with the zombie information. Wu Di still looked displeased. I'm sure it's Zhang Yi. That guy is using this opportunity to drain other forces' power. Now he's playing the thief, shouting catch the thief. Who knows what tricks he's playing? Bien Junwoo had been silent all this time. After all, these were just speculations, and he would not make rash judgments. He only said with a cold gaze, let's take a trip to Turtle Mountain. Everything will be clear once we get there. After the investigation team left, Zhang Yi sat alone on the sofa, playing with a silver lighter, staring at the golden flame. After much thought, he decided to tell all his buddies everything. At this moment, the investigation team must already be on their way to Turtle Mountain, and the hidden zombies would soon be discovered, meaning the real zombie war was not far off. If everything goes as Zhang Yi envisioned, the previous battle outside the Snow Worship sect was just a play, then this upcoming decisive battle would surely be several levels more stressful. It was time to prepare them mentally. Zhang Yi activated the voice system, calling everyone to the living room for a meeting. When they heard his voice, everyone quickly gathered in the living room. Everyone knew that Zhang Yi only summoned everyone when facing major issues. Their faces curious, only Yang Xinxin remained as calm as ever. Zhang Yi didn't beat around the bush and directly stated, from my investigation, I've found that this zombie crisis isn't a natural disaster, but a man-made one. There's a huge conspiracy behind it, aimed at wiping out the entire Heavenly Sea City. Then, Zhang Yi started from when he discovered Yuan Kongya had multiple abilities, talked through finding the large number of zombies in Turtle Mountain area, even mentioning that since the Battle of the Five Armies, he noticed bodies of ability users on the battlefield turned into empty shells, as if their essence had been sucked out. Linking this to the effects of Frost Essence, it wasn't hard to deduce that Yuan Kongya possesses this death retrospective ability. As he spoke, Zhang Yi also played footage from the mechanical rat in Turtle Mountain area, telling everyone that if his guess was correct, these zombies were likely bred by Yuan Kongya. Next to him, Yang Mi's face turned pale as she said, if that's the case, then Yuan Kongya will definitely kill me. She even began to regret awakening her ability with Frost Essence. Shou Kier secretly felt relieved. It's a good thing that brother Zhang Yi didn't give me the Frost Essence. Zhang Yi consoled, don't worry, you definitely won't be her main target. As long as our plan goes smoothly, her schemes will not succeed. Liang Yu expressed concern. If Yuan Kongya's abilities are really like that, then she must have the abilities of dozens or even hundreds of people by now. Wouldn't she be invincible? Who could be her opponent? Zhang Yi pondered for a moment and said, there is one person who can deal with her, and that is Bien Junwoo. Liang Yu and the others nodded in agreement. They had all witnessed the terrifying strength of Bien Junwoo. His pupil technique was so powerful that it could instantly destroy everything his eyes saw. If not for the severe side effects, his rating could definitely reach the epsilon level. Zhang Yi began to outline his plan in his mind. If their investigation team fails, we must leave Heavenly Sea City immediately. The supplies in my space are sufficient to ensure we can survive well anywhere. The only regret is having to give up this shelter with a top-tier defense system, because if the 7-person team fails, River South Domain will definitely activate Love's Mushroom Cloud and carry out a saturation strike on Heavenly Sea City, instantly destroying the entire city. Hearing this, everyone's faces bore wry smiles. After finishing, Zhang Yi slumped on the sofa and said, everyone get ready. It's best not to change clothes even when sleeping. Always be ready to abandon Heavenly Sea City. Then, he turned on the mechanical rat's remote control, murmuring, next, let it lead the way for Bien Junwoo and his team. After leaving the shelter, Bien Junwoo and his team arrived at the subway entrance of Turtle Mountain area. As usual, Bien Junwoo had Meng Siyu use her aerial scanning ability to scout. Meng Siyu activated her ability, which could cover a 3-kilometer radius. The subway interior seemed relatively safe, so the group quickly entered the tunnel and began to advance and search. However, after advancing a few kilometers, they still found nothing. Wu Di couldn't help but complain that Zhang Gai isn't just messing with us, is he? There's absolutely no sign of zombie activity here. Bien Junwoo didn't believe that Zhang Yi would deliberately deceive them, but the place was indeed eerily clean. Just then, Meng Siyu suddenly stopped, her expression extremely serious, and shouted, found them. There are zombies. There really are zombies, and the number is astonishingly large. roughly estimated to be at least several 100,000. Hearing such a vast number of zombies, everyone frowned. Bien Junwoo pondered for a moment and said, "The scale is too large. It's a bit risky for just a few of us to handle. Let's report back to River South Domain first and request support to specifically clear this coordinate with missiles." After speaking, he turned to leave, but before he had taken a few steps, a series of deep roars suddenly came from the end of the tunnel, the sound getting closer and closer, as if a flood was surging from the depths of the tunnel. Even the ground began to vibrate. Bailey Changqing shouted, "It's a horde." The expressions of the seven changed. Why would the sleeping zombies suddenly awaken? Could it be they received orders from a zombie king? Thinking this, Bien Junwoo immediately ordered, "Everyone, hurry back to the surface." The group quickly started running back, but behind them, the horde swept over like a torrent, and even copper-armored flying zombies had already caught up to them. At the critical moment, Wu Di instantly released a floating cannon, striking a flying zombie in the chest and successfully killing it. But Wu Di also clearly felt that this flying corpse was much stronger than the previous ones. Bailey Changqing, while running, calmly explained, "I felt it too. If all our deductions are correct, everything displayed by the zombies earlier was just a ploy to make us think the mission was completed, then leave Heavenly Sea City. Now that I think about it, the process of us killing the zombie king was indeed too easy, especially during the battle. When those 6 zombie kings appeared together, it was as if they were deliberately placed there for us to kill." As more flying corpses appeared and the sound of their wings grew louder, Bailey Changqing stepped forward and shouted, "All of you, get back." With a swing of his spear, a copper-armored flying corpse was instantly cut in half. Bailey Changqing told the others, "You protect the boss and go first. I'll cover the rear." Bailey Changqing, holding a nearly 3-meter-long spear, kept the horde at bay in front of him and shouted, "Come on, all of you, at once." Bien Junwoo and the others quickly retreated back to the surface. Without a moment to spare, they immediately jumped into the car. Bailey Changqing, as a strength-enhanced mutant, has the ability to enhance all his bodily functions to the extreme. As one of the top warriors of Blizzard City, his close combat skills are nearly unmatched. Once they were in the car and it started, with a roar that pierced the sky, Bailey Changqing also burst out of the subway station. He opened the car door, shouting, "Drive. There are too many of those guys." Meng Siu floored the gas, escaping into the distance. Through the rearview mirror, you could see zombies continuously poured out of the subway entrance, followed by many copper-armored flying corpses. While the regular zombies, despite sprinting, could hardly catch up, the terrifying part was those copper-armored flying corpses, which quickly caught up to the back of the car. Seeing this, Wu Di opened the car window, leaned out, and began to fire floating cannons intensely at the rear. Marksman Shi Guangming also stood up from the sunroof, raising his custom sniper rifle to shoot. But at this distance, the sniper rifle was too slow. A flying corpse's claw almost instantly reached Shi Guangming's face. Taken aback, he had no time to dodge. At the critical moment, a beam of golden light burst from inside the car, turning the flying corpse to ashes instantly. It turned out to be Bien Junwoo, who had removed his sunglasses. He leaned out, activated silencing, and instantly, a dazzling golden light enveloped the zombie horde, dissolving over half of the enormous horde with one strike. Although this attack killed at least tens of thousands of zombies, more kept pouring out from the subway. Bien Junwoo returned inside the car, coughing violently, as each use of silencing was akin to burning his own life. Fortunately, this also bought them some time to escape, and the distance from the pursuing horde was finally widened. Bailey Changqing said gravely, "These dead creatures don't know fatigue. Running away like this isn't a solution. We need to think of a way to request support." Bien Junwoo, suppressing his cough, said with a stern face, "First, go to the nearest shelter, then notify all major forces to come for support immediately. It's too late to ask for help from River South Domain now. We can't let them launch missiles for an indiscriminate attack, can we? That would kill us too." Meng Siu confirmed through the map that the nearest shelter was Radiant Prosperity Shelter. "We go there immediately." Bien Junwoo decided on the spot, notify Radiant Prosperity Base to prepare defenses, and also inform the other houses to send reinforcements to Radiant Prosperity Shelter immediately. Meng Siu drove while sending messages to the major forces. The zombie horde behind the car grew like a flood. Xiao Honglian was just wondering why Zhang Yi wanted to look at Yuan Kongya's information, when the next second she received a call from the investigation team. On the video call, Meng Siu told her, "A massive horde of zombies is heading towards Radiant Prosperity Shelter. We'll be there soon. Get ready." Hearing the news, Xiao Honglian jumped up from her chair, unable to believe her ears. But before she could speak, Meng Siu continued, "Hurry up and prepare the defenses. We'll explain when we get there." After saying that, Meng Siu ended the call, leaving Xiao Honglian alone in front of the screen, bewildered. Wasn't the zombie crisis already resolved? Why are there suddenly zombies again? And they're coming here for shelter. What is going on? But she couldn't refuse. After all, they had the backing of River South Domain. Just then, a knock on the door sounded, and Zhuge Qingting came in to report, "Boss, the base equipment has resumed production. What are our plans next?" But Xiao Honglian shouted at him, "Immediately shut down all equipment. Everyone, retreat to the underground shelter right now. A massive zombie horde is coming." At the same time, in the shelter, Zhang Yi also received Meng Xiu's message. He replied calmly, "We'll be there soon." Zhang Yi knew that he could not let Bian Junwu die in the zombie horde. If that happened, River South Domain would consider the mission a failure and then proceed to bomb Heavenly Sea City extensively. But he also couldn't let them resolve the zombie horde too quickly. After all, he still needed to use Bian Junwu's abilities to eliminate Yuan Kongye. Zhang Yi immediately changed into his combat suit to get ready. Liang Yu and others said they wanted to go together, and even Flower was sticking close to Zhang Yi. To not affect their morale, Zhang Yi told them, "Don't stray too far from me when we get there. If anything goes wrong, I will use the space gate to escape immediately." Hearing this, everyone felt much more secure. Zhou Qi also came out, indicating she wanted to join them. Zhang Yi told her, "The danger this time is definitely much greater than last time. You all stay at home and pack your luggage. If anything unexpected happens on the battlefield, we need to be ready to evacuate Heavenly Sea City immediately." At that moment, Yang Xinxin came out in a wheelchair and said to Zhang Yi, "Brother Zhang Yi, this is our only chance. You must seize it." Zhang Yi slowly nodded. Without time for goodbyes, everyone put on their gear and set off immediately. As they were leaving, Zhang Yi affectionately tousled Zhou Qi's hair and said, "Get everything ready and wait for our news in the living room." He then drove away from the shelter. All major forces, including the Snow Worship sect, received Meng Xiu's message. Jing Yixian saw the message and ran to the church immediately, shouting, "It's bad, it's bad. Our zombies hidden in Turtle Mountain area have been discovered by River South Domain." At that moment, Yuan Kongye was devoutly praying. Hearing the words River South Domain, Yuan Kongye became immensely shocked. As it stands, River South Domain was still a significant threat to her. Didn't the people from River South Domain already leave Heavenly Sea City? Why are they appearing in Turtle Mountain area? Jing Yixian was also very puzzled. Logically speaking, even if they were to search, it should have started with the 5 major forces and gradually expanded the search area. How could they have ended up searching in such a remote place as Turtle Mountain area? We chose Turtle Mountain area in the first place because it was rarely visited and resources were scarce, which made it a perfect hiding place for the zombies. But we didn't expect the horde to still be exposed. Now that the horde has been disturbed by the investigation team, they have probably already chased them to the Radiant Prosperity base. We just received a request for assistance from Bian Junwu, asking us to immediately support Radiant Prosperity base. Yuan Kongye turned and said to Jing Yixian, "Could this be a trap to deal with us? To lure us there and then annihilate us in one fell swoop?" Jing Yixian couldn't be sure and only said, "The message Bloodvine received was that they were disturbed." Yuan Kongye thought aloud, "Now the remaining forces in Heavenly Sea City no longer pose a threat to me. The only thing I need to be wary of now is the power of the investigation team, especially Bian Junwu, with his terrifying power to annihilate everything he sees. Even I am deeply wary of it, yet I also covet it. How wonderful it would be if I could possess silencing." After all, none of the 36 abilities she currently possessed came close to 1/10 of silencing's power. But then she thought, if we don't go to Radiant Prosperity base, it would only raise their suspicions even more. Jing Yixian saw Yuan Kongye's concerns and said to her, "We definitely need to go, but I'll go alone. You stay here. In case anything happens, you'll be safe." As he spoke, Jing Yixian's eyes were filled with an unmistakable warmth. Yuan Kongye did not refuse Jing Yixian's suggestion. She just stepped down, gently hugged Jing Yixian's body, and said, "You're always the best to me. Make sure you stay safe." Then, Jing Yixian, with flushed cheeks, walked out of the church. This time, Jing Yixian took with him all the forces that could be mobilized, since Yuan Kongye no longer needed anyone to protect her. Meanwhile, outside the Radiant Prosperity base, Xiao Honglian was waiting with a few soldiers for the investigation team's arrival. Just as she was wondering why they hadn't arrived yet, a tumultuous snowstorm suddenly arose on the nearby snowfield, a sight they had never seen before. The so-called zombie horde they had faced before was nothing compared to what they saw today. Xiao Honglian muttered in fear, "It looks like we're done for this time." When the investigation team arrived at Radiant Prosperity base, Xiao Honglian immediately directed the cars towards the entrance of the underground shelter. Bian Junwu also shouted, "Quick, get into the shelter first. The horde behind us is too large. We can't afford to fight them." Xiao Honglian also noticed how unusually violent today's zombie horde was. As the investigation team's cars hadn't yet come to a stop, the doors were already flung open, and Xiao Honglian, along with a few others, covered their retreat while also instructing the soldiers to open the large iron doors of the shelter ahead of time. Relying on limited firepower for suppression, everyone successfully retreated into the shelter. Even as the doors closed, remnants of zombies were still caught in them. Shortly after taking refuge in the shelter, the entire refinery was quickly overrun by the zombie horde. Seeing this, Xiao Honglian felt a heart-wrenching pain. The refinery she had worked so hard to maintain for so long was likely destroyed. Bian Junwu comforted her, "We have already notified all the major forces to come immediately for support. When they arrive, we should still have a chance to deal with the horde outside." Xiao Honglian clenched her fists, looking helpless. Today's horde is so vast, probably several times larger than the last time at Snow Worship sect, and they seem even more ferocious. Our collective combat strength is less than a third of what it was then. How are we supposed to fight? Can't you request support from River South Domain? Bien Junwo responded helplessly. Each investigation team has its own mission, and reallocating personnel is very complicated. It requires approval from the highest levels. Xiao Honglian looked helpless, but he wasn't blaming the investigation team, nor did he seem to have a reason to blame them. After all, the zombie crisis was ultimately Heavenly Sea City's own affair. At that moment, CU accessed the outside visuals through River South Domain's nebula system. From above, the entire refinery was completely overrun by the horde, densely packed. Xiao Honglian sighed helplessly. We're done for now. None of us can get out. Just then, Bien Junwo suddenly started coughing violently, and his subordinates immediately asked with concern, "Boss, are you alright?" Bien Junwo waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. It looks like we can only ask for help from above now." Despite the traces of blood at the corners of his mouth, Bien Junwo still flashed a sinister smile. "Right now, the horde is gathered together. I can request aerial strike support from headquarters." Xiao Honglian was shocked. "You mean to have River South Domain fire missiles here? That would completely destroy my refinery, and there are a lot of oil and gas materials stored underground here. If they explode, the shelter probably won't hold." Bien Junwo frowned and muttered, "There's no better solution I can think of." Bien Junwo decided to ask River South Domain for help. He took out his phone, ready to contact the high command of River South Domain. With his current level, he had the authority to directly contact the Supreme Commander, Zhu Jing. At that moment, Zhu Jing was thinking, why hasn't old Bien come back yet? Could it be that he hasn't managed to control the zombie crisis? Bien Junwo got straight to the point. "We've taken refuge in Radiant Prosperity Shelter, and we're completely surrounded by zombies here. We need support from River South Domain." Zhu Jing was immediately shocked. As the zombie crisis escalated to this degree, initially, Zhu Jing hadn't taken the so-called zombie threat seriously, but he still sent his most elite investigation team there. Unexpectedly, not only had Bien Junwo failed to resolve the issue, but he had also been forced to seek refuge in a shelter. Keep in mind, their 7-person team consisted of the top mutants from Blizzard City. Does that mean the zombie crisis could potentially threaten Blizzard City? After all, Heavenly Sea City is only just over 300 kilometers from Blizzard City. Thinking this, Zhu Jing turned and walked into the control room, pulled up the current scene around Radiant Prosperity Shelter on the artificial intelligence, and conducted a statistical analysis. Soon, the artificial intelligence provided specific data. Over 390,000 zombies, 340 of them mutant zombies. Zhu Jing was stunned. He told Bien Junwo, to completely clear such a massive horde, it might take hundreds of missiles. The military factories are struggling with production. We should save where we can. I think the most effective method is still to use Deathslov. From what I understand, Radiant Prosperity Shelter is about 200 meters underground. It should withstand the power of Deathslov. This way, we can completely eradicate this wave of zombies. Bien Junwo was horrified upon hearing this. He knew well the power of Deathslov. A single deployment could likely turn the entire Heavenly Sea City into a wasteland. Zhu Jing coldly said, "Anyway, there aren't many survivors left in Heavenly Sea City now. To prevent the zombies from spreading further, it's worth sacrificing a few people." Bien Junwo knew Zhu Jing was right, but this also meant that not only the zombies would be dealt with, but their 7-person team would also be sacrificed. The area affected by Deathslov would be left barren, and the residual radiation would last for at least 20 years. The supplies inside the shelter wouldn't last that long, meaning they would all likely die trapped in this sunless underground. Bien Junwo then realized that relying on River South Domain at this time was not feasible. As the Supreme Commander of River South Domain, Zhu Jing certainly wouldn't compromise his duty to prevent a crisis from spreading throughout River South just for the sake of a few subordinates. Bien Junwo somewhat helplessly said, "Marshal Zhu, could you give us a little time? We want to try one last time." Zhu Jing paused for a moment, then said quietly with a hint of regret, "Okay, then I'll give you 24 hours. If you can't resolve the horde by then, I will order the deployment of Deathslove." After ending the call, Bien Junwo was expressionless. Xiao Honglian approached him anxiously and asked, "When will the reinforcements arrive? Are we really going to use missiles?" Bien Junwo glanced at her and said coldly, "There are too many zombies, and headquarters has decided to use Deathslove to eliminate them." This statement caused an immediate uproar at the scene. Xiao Honglian was well aware that Deathslove, also known as the Doomsday Weapon, could not only turn the entire Heavenly Sea City into wasteland, but also bring radiation that would linger for decades. Xiao Honglian shouted angrily, "Does he mean to have us all buried with these zombies?" Bien Junwo calmly said, "At this point, anger is pointless. Headquarters has only given us 24 hours. If we can't deal with the horde using our own strength, then all of us will end up trapped underground." Saying this, Bien Junwo set his watch, starting the countdown. Xiao Honglian quickly realized the urgency of the situation, that they didn't have much time left. Now wasn't the time to discuss right or wrong. Everyone needed to unite, their common enemy being the zombies outside. Bien Junwo said to Xiao Honglian, "I need all the information from your shelter, especially regarding weapons and equipment." Then he turned to Meng Xiu and said, "Report this situation exactly as it is to the other major forces. Everyone must understand that if they don't give their all to help, everyone in Heavenly Sea City will die." At that moment, Bien Junwo adjusted his glasses and added, "And don't forget to tell them, Anyone who dares to flee the battlefield, River South Domain will pursue them relentlessly. At this time, several major forces were also making their way to Radiant Prosperity Base. Sitting in the car, Jing Yixian's emotions were mixed. Although the Horde was a monster they had created, his emotions were more complex than others. Now the situation was somewhat beyond his expectations, somewhat irreversible. Just as he was considering using Bloodvine to disperse the Horde, he received another message. In 24 hours, Death's love will strike the entire Heavenly Sea City. The usually calm Jing Yixian read this and couldn't help but angrily slam his fist against the car window. His worst fears were coming true. River South Domain, with its absolute military superiority, indeed had the power to easily wipe them all out. By then, all their efforts would turn to dust. He absolutely could not let this happen, but how could he ensure the investigation team's survival while making the zombie horde retreat on its own? And he had to do it without arousing suspicion from others. At this moment, he was caught in a dilemma. Meanwhile, in the direction of Heron's River District, Zhang Yi also received the warning about Death's love. Initially, Zhang Yi was a bit surprised, but he quickly laughed it off because all of this was actually within his and Yang Xinxin's expectations. He was eager to see how the people from Snow Worship Sect would react upon receiving this message. They certainly wouldn't dare let the investigation team die in Heavenly Sea City. So would they abandon the hundreds of thousands of zombies or decide to go down fighting? Once this wave of zombies was successfully eliminated, Snow Worship Sect would definitely not be able to cultivate a large number of zombies again in the short term, providing a chance to completely eradicate them. At that moment, Zhang Yi looked up at the sky, and vaguely, he seemed to see a figure holding a scythe descending from the heavens, destroying everything. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. The power of Death's love is indeed terrifying. However, his combat suit had some radiation protection, so escaping from Heavenly Sea City should not be a problem. Zhang Yi had already prepared for the worst. He took out his phone, notifying Zhou Qir and others to immediately take refuge on the third sublevel to avoid the potential strike. After hearing this, the atmosphere in the car instantly became tense. Chunlei turned pale and cried out, "We're doomed. We're really doomed this time. Should we just run? We still have 24 hours. Enough time to escape Heavenly Sea City." Zhang Yi looked at the message and said calmly, "They've already said that anyone who tries to run will be relentlessly pursued by River South Domain." Chunlei's face turned ashen, clearly understanding that they might have a slim chance of surviving if they fought the zombies. But if they offended River South Domain, death was certain. River South Domain's nebula system and powerful network would track them down no matter where they fled. Uncle Yu also lamented, "That's hundreds of thousands of zombies. Even if it were hundreds of thousands of pigs, resolving this in 24 hours wouldn't be easy." Zhang Yi, leaning back in his seat, said leisurely, "This crisis isn't without a solution. If we can prove that the zombie horde was orchestrated by Snow Worship Sect, we can push all the trouble onto them. The ones to worry won't be us." At that moment, inside Radiant Prosperity Shelter, after tallying the remaining weapons and equipment, Bian Junwu quickly came up with a temporary battle plan. Facing an army of over 300,000 zombies, a frontal confrontation was impossible. Since the horde was stirred up and chased here, there was a high probability that the zombie king was still in Turtle Mountain area. Therefore, they must find an opportunity to break out, locate the zombie king, and kill it. Once the zombie king's command was lost, the horde wouldn't be so frightening. At that time, Xiao Honglian asked, "With so many zombies, how easy would it be to break out?" Bian Junwu pushed his toad glasses up and murmured softly, "We'll have to rely on that guy with the teleportation ability." Everyone knew he was referring to Zhang Yi. Behind him, Wu Di, visibly unimpressed, scoffed, "I can't believe that at such a crucial moment, we still have to rely on that dawdler to save us." At that time, Zhang Yi was rushing to Radiant Prosperity Shelter. Suddenly, Zhang Yi received a call from Bian Junwu. Bian Junwu told him, "Don't rush to support us here for now. Go to the seaside and use your spatial ability to collect a large amount of seawater." Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi immediately understood Bian Junwu's intent. Facing hundreds of thousands of zombies, without large-scale lethal weapons, it was impossible to completely eliminate them. They could only use seawater to restrict their movement. Once the zombies were immersed in seawater, in such low temperatures, they would quickly freeze, significantly limiting their mobility. This plan was indeed brilliant. Zhang Yi didn't delay, immediately turning the car around and heading towards the East Sea at full speed. Meanwhile, Xing Tian and others received instructions from Bian Junwu to stand by in the distance, waiting for all preparations to be complete, then wait for the command to attack the zombies. Zhang Yi would need about 4 hours to gather the seawater, and the people from the major forces were incredibly tense, fearing the arrival of Death's love. At this moment, Jing Yixian was also extremely conflicted. He still couldn't understand how the investigation team managed to find the zombies he had hidden away, and now the choice before him was, should he sacrifice the zombie horde to gain the trust of River South Domain, or should he destroy everyone in a lose-lose scenario? But upon closer thought, the second option was simply not feasible. Given the attack method of the horde, there was no chance they could breach the interior of the shelter. With only 24 hours left, he couldn't afford to gamble. Moreover, turning against River South Domain was an extremely foolish choice in itself. It seemed that now, other Rather than abandoning the zombies, he had no choice. Although it pained him greatly, he had to make this decision, but it was a forced hand. He had to play it real next, making absolutely sure they didn't discover the connection between the zombie horde and the snow worship sect. Thus, he could only do nothing and let the horde attack instinctively. Soon, for hours passed, and Zhang Yi's dimensional space was filled with seawater. He called Bian Junwu, saying, "The seawater is ready. Now we just need to find a high point to dump it from. However, I can't guarantee the outcome. Fortunately, the Radiant Prosperity Base is in a rather low-lying area, which should successfully impact the formation of the horde, but completely submerging them is unlikely." Bian Junwu responded, "That's enough. You just need to buy us some time to break out. Only by breaking out can we find an opportunity to take down the zombie king." After ending the call, Zhang Yi instructed Liang Yu to drive towards a high point near the Radiant Prosperity Base. Upon reaching a hill, the Radiant Prosperity Base, besieged by zombies, suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. This sight made Chun Lei break out in a cold sweat, and he was relieved. Thank goodness the zombies are all focused on the Radiant Prosperity Shelter. If they were coming at us, we'd be dead. Zhang Yi approached a cliff, looking down at the entire Radiant Prosperity Base, and then he opened two massive dimensional gates. The next second, two torrents of water gushed out from the dimensional space. After Zhang Yi opened the two-dimensional gates, the seawater, taken from deep sea areas, was extremely salty, but under the external temperature of -60 degrees, it quickly formed ice. The surging water immediately turned into two ice rivers, rushing toward the Radiant Prosperity Base, instantly engulfing many zombies on the perimeter. The reacting horde roared towards Zhang Yi's direction and charged at the flow of water. However, they were quickly swallowed by the sea. Their mindless charge was futile. Facing the surging water, they did not avoid it, and soon their formation was disrupted, falling like dominoes. Seeing this, Zhang Yi was overjoyed, confirming that Yuan Kongye and Jing Yixian did not dare opt for a mutual destruction. Zhang Yi even started applauding. "If so, then let your zombie army perish here." The water quickly submerged a large number of zombies. Although tens of thousands of zombies were already submerged, they still desperately struggled towards Zhang Yi's direction. Seeing this, Bian Junwu couldn't help but sigh internally. Zhang Yi, this guy truly has limitless potential. Immediately, he gave the command, "Everyone prepare to break out." Just then, dozens of cannons of various calibers rose from the outer walls of the base and began firing fiercely at the densest parts of the horde. In an instant, thousands of zombies were taken out. At this time, Wei Dinghai and others also responded to Bian Junwu's call, attacking the horde from different directions. At this time, Wei Dinghai's ability played a crucial role. The seawater released by Zhang Yi, mixed with soon-to-freeze ice, created an excellent combat environment for him. He targeted the copper-armored zombies, freezing them solid with the ice rivers. Xing Tian also swung his giant axe, leading the Xing Tian army to charge at the horde. With the coordinated efforts of the major forces, they caught the horde completely off guard. Zhang Yi, while sniping zombies, said to Bian Junwu, "We won't be able to maintain our advantage outside for long. You must quickly find a way to break out." Bian Junwu also understood that although the zombies' formation was temporarily disrupted, they still held an absolute numerical advantage. Moreover, each of those copper-armored zombies was as strong as an enhanced mutant. Bian Junwu immediately ordered, "Everyone, concentrate fire and charge out with me now." Xiao Honglian, with a stern face, bit her teeth and said with a fierce tone, "Since we're playing rough, let's make it thrilling." She walked to the control panel, opened a secret compartment, and then forcefully punched a button. Outside the shelter, the entire refinery erupted in a deafening explosion, and a mushroom cloud rose above the ground. Zhang Yi's eyes widened, exclaiming, "What's going on? Did Xiao Honglian just blow up the refinery?" Zhang Yi watched the scene in disbelief, commenting, "Good thing I'm wearing a high-temperature resistant combat suit, otherwise I'd definitely have severe burns from this position." The explosion killed at least hundreds of thousands of zombies. The blast did not end there. The intense heat wave caused the newly formed ice rivers to revert back into lakes, and the surrounding snow and ice on the ground also melted extensively. Zombies are very cold resistant but not heat resistant, and the steaming water caused many zombies to deactivate and die. Zhang Yi quickly retreated. The continuous explosions lasted almost 10 minutes before they finally ceased, but the flames still burned fiercely. Bian Junwu watched this scene nearly dumbfounded. No one had expected Xiao Honglian to have such a move up her sleeve, and they all gained a new respect for the leader of Radiant Prosperity Base. At that moment, Xiao Honglian's eyes still flickered with a mad light as she shouted with a slightly maniacal tone, "What a thrill!" But what nobody knew was that the Radiant Prosperity Base's oil depot was not the only one. Xiao Honglian had hidden another 500,000 barrels of crude oil in a secret location. At this time, Bian Junwu stepped forward and saluted, saying, "Captain Xiao really has the courage. This desperate move has significantly relieved our pressure." Xiao Honglian just waved her hand and said, "Let's hurry and break out while the horde is still in disarray. We still have a chance." Meng Xiu, worried, said, "The ground is almost a vast ocean now. It's even harder for us to get out. If we try to swim across, those copper-armored flying zombies will surely attack us, and we'll become sitting ducks." Xiao Honglian, gritting her teeth, said, "At this point, no matter matter the danger, we have to try. Now is our last chance. At that moment, the investigation team's demolition expert and mechanic, E.G. Kong, stepped forward and said, I can retrofit a speedboat and then rush out. Zhuge Qingting quickly asked, what materials do you need? Tell me, and I'll prepare them right away. We don't have much time. E.G. Kong calmly said, I need a vehicle, preferably a truck, but a bicycle will do if there's no other option. Then get a few people who know a bit about mechanics to help me. At that moment, Bien Junwu checked his watch and said, we have at most 15 minutes. The horde covers too wide an area on the snowfield, and the outer zombies haven't been affected much yet, and those zombies in the water are desperately swimming to shore. Once they regroup, they will firmly encircle the central lake, and then breaking out will become difficult. Yi Jikong rolled up his sleeves and shouted, give me 10 minutes. Saying that, he started to retrofit the speedboat. At that moment, Zhang Yi called Bien Junwu and told him, the zombies outside haven't given up surrounding the shelter, and many copper-armored flying zombies are circling above the lake. Bien Junwu said, we're breaking out in 10 minutes. I see your shooting is good. Can you help me take care of those annoying guys in the sky? Zhang Yi sighed and said, I can do it, but that will expose my position. However, for the sake of our friendship, I've decided to take them on. The mechanical master, Yi Jikong, quickly retrofitted a simple assault boat which could only carry about 10 people. The investigation team decided to take Xiao Holian and a few key members to break out. Once ready, Bailey Changqing carried the assault boat to the front gate. Meanwhile, Bien Junwu also informed the outside forces, we are preparing to break out now. Everyone get ready to cover us. Xiao Holian opened the 7-layer alloy gate of the shelter, and immediately a wave of heat blasted from outside. Bailey Changqing, shouldering the assault boat, threw it directly into the water, and then about a dozen people jumped aboard. Yi Jikong was in charge of piloting the boat, while the others kept watch. As expected, just a few seconds after the propeller started, a group of copper-armored flying zombies dived towards them. Bien Junwu stood at the bow, firing furiously at the flying zombies with a specially made handgun. Each individual on the boat was a powerful mutant, but cramped on this small speedboat, they were hard-pressed to utilize their full abilities. Suddenly, a flying zombie lunged at Bien Junwu from the side. Wu Di hadn't managed to release his floating cannon in time when a loud bang sounded overhead. The head of the copper-armored flying zombie was pierced through. It was Zhang Yi who had acted. He stood on a high point, calmly reloading, and continued to target the flying zombies circling above the boat. Wu Di, holding a sniper rifle, muttered resentfully, shooting from behind. Who can't do that? I could do that too. At that moment, Bailey Changqing quickly stopped him, saying, you better not. This assault boat is too small. The recoil from the sniper rifle could flip the boat. Wu Di could only reluctantly set the rifle aside. Just then, the boat's speed suddenly dropped significantly, as if entangled by seaweed, making it difficult to move forward. It turned out that a large number of zombies were converging on their small boat, some even getting tangled in the propeller. Everyone's expressions grew serious, and Yi Jikong could only max out the engine power to barely move forward. However, there were too many zombies ashore, and even if they reached the shore, breaking through would still be challenging. Seeing this, Wu Di gritted his teeth and raised both hands, suddenly surrounded by dozens of glowing orbs. He shouted, I'm going all out with you dead things. At that moment, Bien Junwu stopped him. Put away your floating cannon. I'm the captain here. It's not your turn to steal the spotlight. The power of the floating cannon was indeed formidable, but it had a major flaw. It not only consumed his mutant abilities, but also his mental energy. If Wu Di overdid it, his body would suffer backlash. This was somewhat similar to Bien Junwu's own silence, so he had always been particularly caring and tolerant towards Wu Di, hoping he wouldn't follow in his footsteps. Bien Junwu stepped forward, pushed his sunglasses up, and muttered, it's time to end this. Countless zombies were swimming towards their boat. If they didn't make it to shore quickly, the makeshift assault boat would definitely be overturned. Once they fell into the water, even with formidable abilities, they could no longer be used, and they would end up being torn apart and devoured. Bien Junwu knew that if they didn't act now, it would be too late. Just as Bien Junwu was about to take off his sunglasses, Bailey Changqing stepped forward to stop him. Boss, absolutely not. Look at the size of this horde. Even if you do use your silence, it's unlikely to carve a path for us. Bien Junwu knew he was right. After all, he was only a Delta-level mutant and couldn't expect to work miracles with one move. Although the power of silence was close to Epsilon level, its usage was severely limited, and there were significant side effects. Otherwise, if he could fire it continuously, or if its power were 10 times stronger, the hundreds of thousands of zombies wouldn't pose a threat. Xing Yishan, watching the situation from the shore, was also anxious because he knew that if the investigation team died in Heavenly Sea City, Death's love could flatten the entire city at any moment. He cursed internally. Why didn't these meddlers go home after the last zombie wave? You brought this on yourselves. However, Xing Yishan was also helpless at the moment and could only shout to his priests, we must do everything to rescue the investigation team. At the very least, we have to save their captain's life. But the combat power of the copper-armored flying zombies was indeed too strong, and there were several hundred of them. Within a few minutes, 5 mutant priests were torn to pieces. Xing Yishan, however, did not care. Ultimately, these abilities would all return to Yuan Kongya, which to him was not a bad bad thing. At that moment, Zhang Yi, getting playful, instructed everyone to get on the snow vehicle and had Uncle Yu floor it, circling the zombies. Soon, the snow vehicle attracted a lot of zombies, which roared and chased after it. But after all, they were flesh and blood. How could they possibly catch up with Zhang Yi? Uncle Yu drove, and Zhang Yi, poking his head out of the sunroof, shot wildly, while Chun Lei and Liang Yu kept throwing grenades, killing many zombies. Watching these mindless charging zombies, Zhang Yi laughed. These zombies are crazier than before, but also dumber, having lost control and command. As expected, they can only revert to their most primal state. At this moment, Zhang Yi couldn't help but worry. With the current situation, how will Jing Yixian and Yuan Kongya handle it? It feels like things are getting more and more out of control. In fact, Yuan Kongya and Jing Yixian do have a way to control the horde, but at this point, their methods are too late to apply. Seeing the few people on the assault boat coordinating silently and slowly getting away from the pursuing zombies in the water, they were about to reach the shore. However, an even more terrifying number of zombies were waiting for them on the shore, making Jing Yixian extremely anxious. Just then, he suddenly leaped into the air, astonishingly landing in front of the small boat. As soon as he boarded the assault boat, Jing Yixian said to Bian Junwu, "Mr. Bian, there are too many zombies. It's probably difficult to successfully break through. Should I take you away from here first? At any rate, you need to stop River South Domain from using Death's Love on Heavenly Sea City." But at that moment, Bian Junwu rebuked him righteously. "What good does saving me alone do? If we can't resolve the zombie issue within 24 hours, not a single person in Heavenly Sea City will survive." After Bian Junwu expressed his readiness to risk his life, Jing Yixian was almost driven mad. In his view, if it weren't for Bian Junwu and his team suddenly coming to Heavenly Sea City, he and Yuan Kongya's plan would have already succeeded. From a distance, Zhang Yi, seeing such an anxious Jing Yixian, was somewhat puzzled, thinking to himself, aren't the zombies under their control? Have they changed their minds now? Are they reluctant to give up the monsters they've worked so hard to cultivate, pretending to put on a show? Suddenly, Wu Di shouted in horror, "Captain, what's wrong with you?" It turned out that Bian Junwu had started coughing violently again, this time coughing up even more blood. Wu Di immediately flew into a rage, with floating cannons erupting from around him, instantly shredding thousands of zombies around him. This move actually carved out a bloody path. Bian Junwu, struggling to suppress his discomfort, told everyone, "Hurry and break out." From a distance, Liang Yu watched this scene, furrowing her brow. "The number of zombies we've attracted is too few. There are still at least hundreds of thousands of zombies surrounding them. Do they still have a chance to break out?" At this moment, Zhang Yi's expression also turned serious. Could it be that the zombie horde is truly out of control? Has Jing Yixian lost his grip? If so, everyone is in danger. Zhang Yi suddenly smirked meaningfully, saying, "It looks like I really need to show off a bit." Saying this, he prepared to climb to the roof of the car. Chun Lei immediately came over to ask, "Boss, what are you doing?" Zhang Yi glanced at the plump man and said lightly, "I'm planning to use the dimensional gate to rescue them." The plump man looked dumbfounded. "If you were planning to rescue them, why wait until now?" Zhang Yi's dimensional gate has an effective range of only 300 meters, but it has no consumption or cooldown time. This means that as long as Zhang Yi moves fast enough, he can achieve the effect of instant teleportation. However, Zhang Yi told Chun Lei, "The rescue I'm talking about isn't the kind you're thinking of." With less than 16 hours left until the arrival of Death's Love, Zhang Yi continued, "If I'm not mistaken, River South Domain doesn't care about the survival of the investigation team. They've already calculated that we can't solve the zombie problem, and the use of Death's Love has been planned all along. The 24-hour deadline is just an excuse for Bian Junwu and the others." Hearing this, Chun Lei shivered a bit, looking at Zhang Yi with hope, saying, "Boss, let's hurry and flee. There's still time to escape Heavenly Sea City. Living even one more day is worth it." Zhang Yi paused, his face revealing a meaningful smile, saying, "I've said before, if we really can't resolve the zombie horde, then I'm prepared to show off a bit. This is our last chance. Even if we truly fail, it's not too late to flee." Saying this, Zhang Yi dashed into the dimensional gate. He leaped into the dimensional gate, and after shuttling above the zombies, he opened the gate again. The people in the car looked anxious. Even Flower pricked up her ears, her expression full of tension. Uncle Yu, while shouldering a rocket launcher, comforted everyone. "We must believe in Zhang Yi." Just driving in circles in the car, Uncle Yu said this while his rocket launcher never stopped firing, blasting the zombies, chasing them into pieces. No one knew exactly what Zhang Yi was planning, but everyone understood what kind of person he was. He was always so cautious it was infuriating. He would never take risks without absolute certainty. At this time, the investigation team ashore was firmly trapped by the horde. Jing Yixian hovered in the air, continuously using his power to repel zombies. Each blast of his power could take out dozens of zombies, but even with everyone's great strength, facing such a vast tide of zombies, it was just a drop in the bucket. Soon, Jing Yixian began to feel the strain. He tried again to persuade Bian Junwu to leave with him, but Bian Junwu still coldly refused. "If you want to leave, go by yourself. I will definitely fight to the end with my teammates." Hearing this, Jing Yixian's expression gradually twisted, and he cursed internally. "What an ungrateful fool. Staying here now is certainly a death sentence. Yuan Kongya, and I will not die with you." Once the zombies have killed all of you, I will contact Bloodvine to make the remaining zombies self-destruct, creating a facade of mutual destruction, which might even stop the arrival of Death's love. While thinking this, Jing Yixian powered himself to fly out of the encirclement. Just then, Zhang Yi suddenly leaped down from the dimensional gate. Bian Junwu and the others were startled. Zhang Yi, what are you doing here? Are you here to rescue us? Everyone looked at Zhang Yi, both surprised and relieved, seeing him as a life-saving straw in their desperation. Zhang Yi, pretending to be exhausted, gasped heavily and said, the situation is very bad right now. My spatial ability can only take one person out of here. Hearing this, everyone was immensely disappointed. Saving one person wouldn't help. The zombies would still overwhelm everyone, and it wouldn't change the arrival of Death's love. At this point, Zhang Yi said gravely, I have a not-so-mature suggestion. Wu Di hastily said, beating around the bush. Just say it. Zhang Yi directly said, does everyone remember the frost essence given by Yuan Kongya? Frost essence has two abilities. One is to help the unawakened awaken, and the second is to help the awakened unlock their potential and enhance their strength. Bian Junwu seemed to understand what Zhang Yi was getting at. At that moment, Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said, I've actually used frost essence myself, and I found no side effects, and it significantly boosted my mutant power. Unexpectedly, Xiao Honglian also said, I've used frost essence too. If I remember correctly, Wei Dinghai and Xing Tian have used it as well. Upon hearing this, even Zhang Yi was shocked internally, thinking, I was originally planning to trick a few people into taking frost essence. I didn't expect that they had all already taken it. Doesn't this mean that if they die, Yuan Kongya's power will skyrocket? Bian Junwu, half believing, said, are you suggesting we use frost essence to boost our strength and then break out? Zhang Yi nodded. It seems to be the only way now. You all are top mutants, and with the enhancement from frost essence, you might break through your limits and greatly increase your combat effectiveness. Then there might be a chance to break out. Wu Di immediately volunteered. Boss, let me go first. Let me do it. Zhang Yi immediately took out a frost essence from the dimensional space and handed it over. I have one here that you can use. Bian Junwu looked at the frost essence, his expression becoming very serious. Despite the sunglasses, Zhang Yi could still feel his chilling gaze. Zhang Yi suddenly felt a bit guilty, afraid that his little scheming would be seen through by the old fox. Bian Junwu,